What is going on? Jesus Christ. I pressed the wrong thing. Hold on. Welcome back. Welcome back. Hold on. Okay. All right. Let's talk about the story today. Shall we? Shall we? We have a very important story to cover today. And please engage. Please engage. I want to hear your thoughts on this. It helps. It helps us really cover all the bases that we need to cover. Okay. And we're talking about this kind of stuff. This week, I think I have a couple of Japa stories lined up again, but I have had some other ones ahead of next week. So look out for next week for some other type of stories. But this one, he used me to bring his mistress to the UK. I'm going to read it. Then we'll try to understand where she's coming from. And then we'll take it from there. Okay. So what do we have here? Okay. All right. I'm writing you because I have no one else who would understand the pain I'm going through. My name is Clara. I changed all the names, by the way. My name is Clara, and I'm currently living in London. I met my husband, Kola, about 5 years ago when he was visiting the UK. We fell in love quickly, and after a whirlwind romance, he convinced me to marry him and bring him over from Nigeria to live with me here. Okay, wait, Joe, did I miss something? Okay, he was visiting. Okay, gotcha. At first, everything seemed perfect. Kola was everything I had ever wanted. Charming, attentive, and ambitious. He promised me the world, and I believed him. However, things changed almost immediately after he arrived. He became distant and He became distant and uninterested in building a life with me. I tried everything. Wait, how did you jump from there? He was charming, attentive, and ambitious. You know me, I'm always looking like, tell me the rest of the story, right? He promised me the world and I believed him. However, things changed almost immediately after he arrived. He became distant and uninterested in building a life with me. I tried everything, counseling, prayer, and even giving him the space he said he needed. Then one day I discovered messages on his phone from another woman back in Nigeria. When I confronted him, he didn't even deny it. Instead, he turned the tables on me, accusing me of being insecure and controlling. I was shattered. But he promised it was just a misunderstanding and that he would cut off all contact. Things seemed to calm down for a while, but my heart was never at peace. I felt a deep gnawing sensation that something wasn't right. And then a few months later, I found out the real truth. Kola had been using my money to fund his other woman's move to the UK. She is now here in the same city as us. My husband had brought her in as his cousin, and they were planning to live together. I confronted Kola again, and this time he was cold. He told me he was tired of my drama and that he needed to be with someone who understood him. He left that night and hasn't come back. I'm left alone in this house, surrounded by memories of a life that was never real. I don't know what to do, and I feel like I've lost everything. I thought love could overcome anything, but now I'm left questioning everything I've believed in. I don't know how to move forward from this betrayal, and the pain is so overwhelming. I'm sharing my story with you, hoping someone can learn from my mistake and maybe find strength where I couldn't. All right. Thoughts. Let me hear you guys. What are the lessons we can extract from this? Because that's just a sad story right there. That's an extremely sad story. What are the lessons we can learn from that? Anybody? I'm waiting. I'm going to wait a few more minutes while you guys gather your thoughts. And I'm listening. Let me hear your thoughts, and I'll come to the chat. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so let me do a quick analysis of it. Mario says Nawa for Kolao. It is sad. It is sad because it sounds like he has a whole nother life altogether. People are just using people anyhow these days. It's a struggle. These are the kind of stories that make us want to agree with Tokema Kinwa, right? Yeah. It is kind of rough out there, but this kind of stories also tend to go viral more. What I try to do here is I want to acknowledge that this kind of stories exist, but I want to help more people get to the other side. Okay, because this kind of story, believe it or not, it presents an opportunity for whoever is dealing with this to start all over. But obviously, it's not easy to see that way. So that's what I want to bring. I want to bring another perspective to it as opposed to just remaining in that funk and thinking life is just fully like that. Because the way our brain works, we tend to see life with our experience and we make assumption that it's just like that everywhere. Nothing could be further from the truth, So it's a truly, there's no way that's not a painful experience for someone like Clara to go through that kind of stuff, Betrayal can cut really deeply, potentially irreparable. Okay, so some people will never actually find the solution they're looking for. Okay, because it's actually easier to be drawn to more stories like it, and that just makes it worse and worse and worse and worse. So it's going to be hard to come back from it, but there's nothing worthwhile that's not hard. So this is just the real world. Okay, so a couple of things. Hold on one second, let me see here. Am I missed something? A lady straight up said marriage is the way to go abroad now. She's looking for an abroad husband, and that one will collect now. Like, oh, I went to the village to bring a feminine woman. Right? It's crazy. Yeah. Some people will even go as far as having 4 children with you, knowing good and well from the onset they were going to leave your ass. It's crazy. That's crazy, But I don't want you guys to think about that. I don't want you to think about that, because for most times, people just don't know how to do relationships. And of course, a person will have 4 children with you, and then you happen to import them. So it's easy for you to say they were planning it all along. Who is going to listen to their side? Like, no, I wasn't planning it all along. It just so happened that we've had 4 children, and that just happened to be our story. But I'm tired. I can't stay in this relationship anymore. See, when you mix that story, Chinye, which, by the way, can exist, of course, when you mix it together, the other side of the person that's just like, yeah, I know, I feel like I owe them, but No, I just can't stay in that kind of relationship, right? So now, which one is the truth, right? Because both stories from at least one side will sound like either side, right? So it's very difficult. So I'm convinced I have to look at it from, no, you marry that person. It is what it is. You marry that person. What else can you learn from this story outside of the painful experience of betrayal by a person you brought abroad? What else can you learn from it outside of the fact that you, quote unquote, yes, you did them a favor of bringing them abroad once upon a time? That's the angle I like to approach it from, because everything else we can't really control and we don't really know. We might never know, actually, as a matter of fact, but you marry that person. What value were you getting from them when you decided to marry them? I know you imported them, but you were also getting some type of value from marrying that person. You were not doing charity work. You can call it, oh, I said to, I shouldn't have said to, nice and cute. What else? Even if the value is as simple as, no, I was desperate, I wanted to get married. I was tired of Western women and I wanted to go and find a feminine woman in the third world. What else could you learn outside of you being the victim in this story? Right? And that's the angle I want us to cover it from. Yes, it is very true. Some people can intentionally come into your world, impregnate you, knowing fully well that they had another wife. Yes, things like that do happen in this crazy, cold world. Right? When you catch that person, the only thing you should do is you should be letting them go. If you're not letting them go, then there's more to the story. There's more to that story. So, but let me get back. Let me analyze the story itself. Okay. This kind of thing can leave you completely lost and questioning your self-worth for the rest of your life. So it's not easy. It's not easy. But yes, it's easier said than done, but it's absolutely doable. You probably have more strength within you than you realize to navigate, and it's probably a brand new opportunity for you to recreate life all over again. As long as there's life, there is hope. Okay, but I get it. This kind of experience can make you question your worth. So let me go over it again. I'm writing to you because I have no one else who would understand the pain I'm going through. You see, a lot of people, they might talk to friend, family and stuff with this kind of story, and those ones will just inherit your problem and will catch more emotions than you sometimes. So you gotta be careful with your friends and family when it comes to advising you on emotional matters. Sometimes they catch more feelings. Sometimes they already have beef with your significant other. So just be careful, okay? Sometimes they can also be a good shoulder to cry on. If you feel safe enough around them, that's fine, because support system is key, and sometimes support starts with family and friends. So she goes, my name is Clara and I'm currently living in London. I met my husband Kola about 5 years ago when he was visiting the UK. So a guy who is visiting the UK, obviously, you can't look at that person. He was visiting the UK. You can't look at him. It's not Richard. It's not Ratchet. It's a guy who is well off. He might have a good job with a major company in Nigeria. He might have been building a career with a major company in Nigeria, being able to travel and take care of himself. Maybe he came by way of a scholarship or some kind of program to come and represent his company. So it's not exactly easy to pick that person apart, that they would be desperate for Japa, right? It's not exactly easy, right? So sometimes people will beat themselves up and say, I should have known. Like, don't be so quick to beat yourself up. Your experience is your experience. What you should focus on is what you can learn from it. That's not easy, but that's what you should focus on. Okay. So he was visiting. So there's no way, that you could. You're not thinking it's a village boy. You're not thinking it's quote unquote. Sorry. Excuse me. Michael from Michael and Angela, 90 Days Fiance. You're not thinking it's some Agbiru boy who's just looking to Japa. No, this is a person that might have presented as, no, I don't need to japa. They might have actually said, I don't want to live overseas. I rather not. Some of them will come into our malls here and they will spend $5,000-$10,000 right in front of you, and you're looking like, you dare not. Right? You dare, like, many people can't afford to do that, even though they live here. They can't afford to go and blow $5,000-$10,000 in the mall. He might have even shopped for you, Seth, and shopped for many other people, you know. So it's hard to predict that kind of person, that, oh, they will just come and take advantage of you, or they will, you know, it's never easy like that, you know, as easy as it's being painted on the internet, that you should have known. No, sometimes you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. Sometimes you're not capable of knowing certain things, because maybe it's just an experience you needed to have to build the next phase of your life, which is the quality that you should be looking forward to right now. Okay, granted, easier said than done, but nonetheless, you're here. You can recreate your life, especially if you have this kind of experience. So she said, we fell in love quickly, and after a whirlwind romance, he convinced me to marry him and bring him over from Nigeria to live with me here. Okay, so it sounds like just a relationship, you know, that two people had, you know. Chia said, that feminine woman from the third world go shook your eyes. Listen, our brothers, they collect. Oh, Ma said, we don't think he's from Ose, Ondo. What do you mean? Are you throwing shots at Ose local government and Ondo? Are you throwing shots? Don't do it though. Don't do it though. We are some of the most educated, posh, tush people around though. I hope that's not what you're doing. So it might be from Ondo. What do you mean from Ondo? You guys sound like you've never been to Ondo before. Have you been to Ondo before? Ondo is one of the most poshest part of Nigeria. Don't get it twisted though. Amara said, is it a normal relationship? She was convinced to marry and bring him over. She's telling the story now. Okay. Oftentimes when you're telling the story from your own personal feelings, emotions, you're reflecting back. If you try to gauge it against the actual things that happen, there will be lots of inaccuracy there. And rightfully so, because you're speaking from a place of feeling hurt now, you know. Yes, posh and tush at the same time, you know. So yes, she's just narrating the story right now. So if she say convinced, I'm just going to take that with a pinch of salt. I believe how she feels, right? So convinced could easily mean she was wooed. She was swept off her feet. She was in love, right? I was having a little doubt there and there, but I was in love too. I was just like, oh, what the heck? You know, it could mean any one of those many translations of convinced me to marry him. Anyway, we don't know. And then she goes, at first, everything seemed perfect. Okay, everything seemed perfect. Kola was everything I had ever wanted. Okay, that doesn't sound like a lot of conviction. She fell for him. She said, charming, attentive, and ambitious. Most typical women will fall for that. Okay, they will fall for that. Okay. He promised me the world, and I believed him. However, things changed almost immediately after he arrived. Okay, so this is a pivotal point right here. When she said, however, things changed almost immediately after he arrived. You know, change in life is inevitable. Nonetheless, if things change in a way that really shakes your core and makes you question everything you've seen up to that point, it's okay to stop everything too. That's also a form of change. Just stop it. Just say, hey, that's not how we got here. And you can actually say that from a very loving place, understanding place. You say, that's not how we got here. Why are you speaking to me like that? Hey, you modern women, we can't talk to you anymore. Yes, so I am modern women. I didn't appreciate the way you just talked at me just now. Okay. It's okay to stop everything immediately as soon as you felt some type of change. It's not easy because again, you're just hoping it's just a bad day and just another bad day, and there's probably, as usual, there's ups and downs, right? There are good days, there are bad days, right? It's not just all bad days, but anytime there's a good day, you bought into it and you're like, we're going to continue. And then you have a tendency, all of us have a tendency to push the issues under the rug, right? Hoping that they will just disappear with the winds. But then it's repeated itself the second time, the third time. At what point are you going to say, maybe it's me, but we need to seek wise counsel, right? Maybe it's me, but we need to say, that's what's wrong with you people. You always want to go to, everything is about therapy. How can everything be about therapy when we've never been to therapy? So you're not talking about me. I'm talking about us. We need to get this right. If we can't get it right, then it's okay to stop everything right now. It's early enough. One of the major issues is that people look at how much invested they are already. They're not looking. They're already so invested in the situation. They're in the situation emotionally that the last thing they want is to mess it up. Right? They don't want to mess it. Even if a friend comes to you and says, what I'm looking at is bad, there's a good chance you'll push against that friend. And you say, you should leave you alone and go and face our own misery loves company life. He might even convince you in that direction, because again, remember, there are bad days and there are good days. Your friends might be stuck on the bad days. It's not always a bad thing that your friends are stuck on the bad days. It just means that's an issue that you want to make sure you have the skills to navigate if it shows itself in the future. Most people don't do that. They just stay in that funk of the ups and downs and ups and downs. Today we argue, the next week we're in love, we buy vacation, we make up sex. Everybody just continue life as normal. And the reality is that there's a difference. There's been a change from when you fell in love with him and what you're experiencing now. And you keep noticing that that thing is repeating itself. If it keeps coming back, even though you have some good times, then it simply means there are issues that needs to be addressed. Okay. So however things change almost immediately, if it's almost immediately, that's the more reason why you should have stopped everything in its track in that moment, and let's get it for your own good, for everybody's good. So, so I can be the so I can be the best quality of wife I can be for you. It's for his own good too, right? So he became distant and uninterested in building a life with me. That's a very pregnant statement. I'm not really too sure what that meant. If it's so instant, right? I would like to know, to unpack that sentence a little bit more. He became distant and uninterested in building a life with me. Is that like, is he staying out longer or what's going on? So she tried everything. Counseling? To what capacity? How? What do you mean by you tried counseling? I want to know, because we're not going to judge your counselor for this. We want to know exactly how that went. Was it a one-time session? Was it an on and off session where you take counseling and you come back again 3 years later to try again? Exactly what did that look like? I tried everything. Counseling, prayer. What do you mean? Are you talking about NSSPPD? Maybe you're talking about you kneel down in front of your house. Maybe you're talking about Igbele Olua. What exactly are you talking about when you talk about prayer? Because especially Nigerians, we can mean like an array of so many things when we say prayer, right? And even giving him the space he said he needed. Okay, now this is an interesting part. If he said he needed, anytime a person comes to you and they said they need space, you need to give yourself 10 times the space that they need. There's a good chance that you're clingy, you're needy, right? That doesn't mean it's your fault. I'm talking about their experience, okay? There's a good chance that you're clingy as far as they're concerned. You need to give yourself, not giving them, give yourself 10 times the space they said they need. It's very, very important. They automatically, they will get the space they need, right? Sometimes people just need their space. Sometimes it's as thick as this kind of condition where this guy seems like he's never really intended to be in that relationship. I think that's what Chinye was talking about. If he immediately came and he started changing his attitude, Yes, like Judge Mattis said, it's not far-fetched for you to be suspicious that did he ever care, right? It's not far-fetched. Mara says, sounds like she overrode an intuition to me, but I am overthinking it now because it didn't work out. It could be any one of those things. You just don't know, right? Toby and Tribe, hello. She said, there are some people that marry just for papers, then they later bring the true love of their life love. Yes, of course, especially if she claims he immediately changed. It depends. Mr. Allah, be serious. What? Yes, that's prayer now. That's a form of prayer now. It's a form of prayer. Come on now. You know now. You know now. So what do you mean by prayer? Exactly. Some people will say prayer don't work. And I'm like, what do you mean by prayer? It doesn't work. Some people say counseling doesn't work or therapy doesn't work. What do you mean by counseling? Like we can throw all these words around. I would, before I can offer any kind of solution, I need to know what they mean. I don't want to make assumptions. So let's see here. Then one day I discovered messages on his phone from another woman back in Nigeria. Okay. So she skipped a part there. She skipped at least. I was snooping around. She skipped at least. I was snooping around, or the phone just popped up and the password interwove itself and it was open in my face. And I just saw she skipped that part. Or it just so happened that he was bathing and he forgot to lock the phone. Something was skipped in between there. Okay. That's not just one thing that was skipped. There's a lot of things that was skipped there, but let's just go with the story, okay? Then one day, like one moment later, you know that sound effect I said, and a moment later, I discovered messages on his phone from another woman back in Nigeria. When I confronted him, as you should, okay, if you discover something like that, confront. There's nothing else to do than just to confront that person. Okay, confronting doesn't mean you're combative. It just means you're asking, what is this? Who is this person? What does this mean? Anyway, so she did. He didn't even deny it. Instead, he turned the tables on me, accusing me of being insecure and controlling. That's why I said, what else were in between there? Accusing you of being insecure and controlling. Obviously, it makes sense because he probably feels like you're clingy, needy, you're snooping through the phone and all that kind of stuff. Does that give him the right to do whatever he was doing with another woman? Some messages will know it doesn't, right? But then it's not really about rights because it still doesn't have the right. And if it was just about rights, the problem will be solved. So the problem is not yet solved. I was shattered, but he promised it was just a misunderstanding and that it would cut off all contact. Okay, so again, you can't judge this lady if she seemed like she had like Myra, I think that's what Myra was saying about intuition, right? If she had not been paying attention to I mean, these are glaring signs in front of her face. Again, from the point that he changed his attitude as soon as he moved in, we're just gonna call that a day. Like, you know, and it's easier said than done, but we need to figure out what we're doing. And the job of a wise counsel is, if they start having conversations with you, you will be able to tell them more than enough that will let them tell you, like, okay, maybe this is not the guy for you. It seems like you don't really know this person. It seems like this person is on another, you guys are on another 2 different pages, right? They'll be able to tell you and help you pinpoint a few things, align a few patterns, and you'll be able to make better decision, because you still have to make that decision, right? But it's a bad idea to continue in that relationship, right? And then expect something to change, right? It's a bad idea to keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result, right? So things seem to, okay, so he said, wait, let me go back. Then one day I discovered messages. Okay, when I confronted him, he didn't even deny it. Instead, he turned the tables on me, accusing me of being insecure and controlling. I expect him to do that. It's part of the denial. Okay, I was shattered, but he promised it was just a misunderstanding and that he would cut off all contact. Well, did you believe him? Right? It wasn't about believing him. Believing him is irrelevant, right? There's a changed behavior that you have to pay attention to over a period of time. Okay. If it's a misunderstanding, what is the misunderstanding? What exactly is a misunderstanding? Okay, once you note that, you're going to be looking out for change behavior. It's going to be a function of time, patience, change behavior, time, patience, meaning you cannot rush back into that situation. Not like that. I understand you might be living in the same household, but still, they have to earn you back. If in fact it's not too clear, what is misunderstanding? What is misunderstanding? And exactly, he denied it. Is it denying it because it never happened? What exactly didn't happen? What is the nature of these text messages? There are some text messages that you will see that you will simply paint 200,000 Nollywood movies of of the worst case scenario. It is possible. However, there needs to be some clarity here. And that clarity is not something you can snap your fingers and it will come. You have to take your time. Let me continue. Things seemed to calm down for a while, but my heart was never at peace. Of course not. Of course, your heart was never at peace because the issue was never resolved. A lot of us brothers, sometimes we're like, I thought that issue was resolved. No, it was never resolved. It was just swept under the rug. Okay? So, of course, your heart was never at peace. In other words, I don't know if you want to call it resentment, lack of peace of mind, low quality of sex, because your heart is not at peace. No intimacy or fake ass intimacy because you're always looking over your shoulder. You cannot be vulnerable, obviously, and you know that's a necessary ingredient in healthy relationships, right? So she said, I felt a deep gnawing sensation that something wasn't right. For how long? For a while. What is a while? 5 years, 2 years? Well, she had known this guy for 5 years now, right? Something wasn't right. And then a few months later, I found out the real truth. Kola had been using my money to fund his other woman's move to the UK. She's now here. She's in the UK, in the same city as us. All right. My husband had brought her in as his cousin. You see, let me explain something to you. Okay, brought her in as cousin. I don't know. Can you file a petition for people as a cousin? I don't know what that means. Over here, what does that mean? Cousin? Can you bring people into America as cousin? I don't know if you can do the same thing as in UK. I know you can bring in a parent. You can bring in a child, a legal custody child. I think that's about it. Can you bring in a cousin? What is that? In UK, can you? You can bring in an employee, right? Somebody with some kind of business interest, as long as you can guarantee their productivity in the nation, right? Cousin, what does that mean? And they were planning to live together. Brought her in as a cousin and we're planning to live together. You guys educate me. D, can you educate me? How does that work in the UK? But let me say this about, she found out the real truth, okay? There is another story that I have here, one of my clients, as a matter of fact, of a person that brought in a classmate. The way she would tell the story is that he brought in a classmate. The way he told me the story is that, no, this person was already on their way in to America, and I just happened to be a resource for them. And the messages she saw was basically just me giving her some resources to help her make her landing in America a lot more easier. She's convinced that there's something between them. Now, she's convinced that something in between them is not the same thing as there's actually something in between them. You see how these stories can literally take different shapes when you start hearing it. But nonetheless, this is why I don't necessarily need to hear the other side of the story. The person that's talking to me right now, once you don't feel safe and secure enough, stop everything. this issue is going to tamper with your relationship at an emotional level. So you don't need to have facts. You just need to know how you feel. If you're feeling funky and you're feeling that the relationship is not right, why would you want to continue? You're just going to show a person's son, somebody's son, shaggy. That's what you're going to do. So you're actually doing yourself harm when you stay in a relationship where you don't feel right. Why don't you take your time to get it right first before you continue? Right? So it's not about the person is right or they're wrong, or as always, it's not about that. It's about you don't feelings being the key word here. You don't feel right. Then why should you rush and continue when you have the rest of your life to do it right? I'm just saying, just a question. So what does cousin mean? Let me see. Somebody was helping me in the chat. Somebody was helping me in the chat. Kola didn't have a job. I mean, he was in the UK on a visit prior to some 5 years ago. So maybe he doesn't have a job presently. Who knows? We don't know. I don't know. Did you pick something from the story? But anyway, Kola used her money. Okay. Is that what you're saying? What does she mean by her money? Was he not working using his own money? Okay. I don't know. But bottom line is that I'm focused on here. What does she mean by a cousin? It's a question, because can you bring in a cousin? That would be interesting to know. I don't know about UK, but anyway. So she said, I confronted Kola again, and this time he was cold. He told me he was tired of my drama and that he needed to be with someone who understood him. And who's that person? The cousin, or the supposed to be cousin? Somebody who understood him. He left that night and hasn't come back. So now we have no idea where he left. Where did he go? Did he go to move in with a cousin? Did he disappear? Is it what happened here? We don't know, right? But he disappeared, right? Now, does he have his permanent resident yet? Does he have his green card yet? Permanent resident. This is UK, right? So what happened there? I'm left alone in this house, surrounded by memories of a life that was never real. Trust me, that life was real. But I guess she's talking about the love was never real. She doesn't believe that it was ever real. The guy never cared or anything like that. But let me break it to you like this. I don't have enough here to conclude that that's exactly what happened. The only thing I can tell you is that this woman never felt safe in this relationship, and she kept winging things. Right? I don't know what to do, and I feel like I've lost everything. Yeah. So that's that hurt feeling. I thought love could overcome anything. Depends on what you mean by love. What do you mean by love? Your own version of love is not necessarily able to overcome everything. So I don't know what you mean by love. You're talking about just being in love, or you're talking about actually loving a person? Are you talking about loving a person out of pity? Are you talking about loving a person just by helping them japa? Or what do you mean exactly by love? But now I'm left questioning everything I ever believed in. Yes. So this kind of experience again will make you question your self-worth. This is what they mean when they say I've lost myself. I don't know how to move forward from this betrayal, and the pain is so overwhelming. I'm sharing my story with you, hoping someone can learn from my mistake and maybe find strength where I couldn't. All right, so if you have stories like this and you want to send them in, just send them to ask@manofprestige.com. Ask@manofprestige.com. That's where you want to send them. Okay, and if you want us to help you with this kind of situation, navigate the next phase of your life in this kind of situation, you can also send a request to ask@manofprestige.com. Reach out, or you can use the phone number that's scrolling on the screen, which is +1 732 305. I forgot. What's the number? I can't remember right now. I blanked out straight. Where's the phone number? +1 732 305 8577. If you live outside of Europe, America, and Australia, send an email. Okay, send an email. All right. So I have 5 tips for anybody who might be going through this kind of stuff. D said they certainly can't bring in a cousin in the UK too. I'll try to figure out, you know. He brought her in as a cousin. Killer mean, auntie. Please elaborate. Chinye said he was looking for the perfect opportunity to disappear. It could be. Or it could be looking for the perfect opportunity to escape a narcissist. Who knows? We will never know. We just need to know what else is going on behind the scenes. This is just our own side of the story. The only thing here that I'm going to hold that on to is that once you're in a relationship and you don't feel right, stop it. Stop everything. You have the rest of your life to get this right. Seek wise counsel. Okay? You need to know that that relationship is not right. That's why you don't feel right. It's not about the other person is wrong or they're a criminal or anything like that. We don't know until we don't know, or do we know? But what we know is that it doesn't feel right, and it's okay to stop it before you try to figure out. You don't expect to gain clarity from a very cloudy place, right? That's an oxymoron, right? Yeah. So Chia says manipulation 101. So he got caught and then he ran away, right? It could be. It could be. We don't know that. Welcome, Uncle Beno. Good to see you, Uncle Beno. All right. So here are some tips. I want to share some tips. I want to share some tips with regards to this. You know, we've covered it. I think it's sad. Anytime people are going through this kind of situation, it is what it is. But it's not going to be as simple as pointing fingers. You're going to have to hold yourself accountable, responsible, at least for the next phase of your life. Okay? At least. Okay, for the next phase of your life. Okay? So the first tip I want to share with you with regards to this kind of story is when you go through something like this, something this crazy, you need to know that you're creating narrative from your experience, from the emotions, the hurt feelings. That's okay. You need to claim that back. You need to reclaim your narrative. You don't want to just be speaking or interpreting from a place of pain. That's exactly what you're going to do. Okay, when trust is broken, you're going to obviously feel like everything was a lie. You're going to tell yourself stories that will continue to perpetuate victimhood. Okay? And it's hard for you to engage your power from that place. So you need to reclaim your narrative. That's going to be the first tip I want to share with you today. You need to remember that your actions, okay, your actions and your intentions need to be rooted in emotional intelligence. And that's not something that you ever finish learning. So you need to engage self-care, self-love as always. And it's going to be super difficult to do that right now because a person that you've engaged with for 5 years has basically demonstrated that you're not worth anything. So there's a very good chance you'll buy into that narrative. And yeah, for a lot of people, they just keep going down that drain, you know. So the stories that you're telling yourself in this respect, not me, not the story you're telling me, the stories that you're telling yourself is going to be a key factor in the direction you set for the rest of your life. Okay? You need to get into a place where you start to recognize your own values again, because again, you've gone through an experience that's going to, like she said, that's going to make you question everything about yourself. Okay? So what do you guys think about that? Any thoughts around that? Reclaiming your narrative. You need to reclaim your narrative. Reclaim the stories you're telling yourself, because a lot of people are going to self-destruct from this standpoint based on the stories they tell themselves. Remember, the easiest stories to tell yourself is that you're a victim. Yes, you probably have been a victim. Okay, there's no doubt that you've been a victim, at least of circumstances, even if it's not of that person, right? Maybe a victim of poverty. Maybe that guy is just trying to run away from poverty. Well, maybe it's all a maybe, right? But now beyond that, what are you going to do? Okay, the first thing you're going to do is tell yourself the stories that you're just a victim. You need to reclaim that story, and then you need to find your values again. Some people call it find yourself. Some people call it self-discovery, right? But I'm very, very particular today about the narrative, the stories you've been telling yourself. Okay. Now, number 2, the second tip I want to share with you before I go into the second tip. Let me see. I just seen Maya says, MOP, these stories aren't rare. It's her story. Maybe she's still grieving. Listen, she needs to reclaim her narrative. Same thing is applicable. Okay. She need to reclaim her story in a way that's going to help her build, not self-destruct. That's going to be a process. It's going to be a time. Anyway, 2, strengthen your inner boundaries. I think you guys would have been thinking about inner boundaries, maybe boundaries, but maybe not necessarily boundaries at this time around. Another way I can think of that is discernment. Your discernment radars. Some people are just so strong, it's very hard for them to fall victim for this kind of stuff. That doesn't mean that they're walking around town calling everybody the devil. That's not what that means. It just means it doesn't mean they're even able to identify what that person is. They just know something doesn't feel right, and they know how to stop it before you get too far. There's some people like that, right? It could be many different things, but one of them is your inner boundaries. You just know that, some people have the personality that naturally put them in that position too. A personality that before they feel anything funny, they will run away. There's some people like that, right? And there's some people that try to force things. As I was just talking to a client just now, they're trying to force a circle into a square. They try to force, like the same thing I said about the Jesus babies the other time. They try to force it to be right because, it's also coming from a place of being desperate. They're not necessarily able to admit that they're desperate, but it is being desperate, right? So there's certain things they should, like I've always said, don't be an easy target. One of the reasons why I wrote this book, one of the reasons why we wrote this book, number 1 red flag is to help you not be an easy target. Many people will judge this by the cover. They think I'm teaching them to go around looking like this, looking for red flags everywhere, which is what most people do, right? I wrote this book mainly to desensitize yourself from being a walking red flag. We talked about red flags in there as well, but we wrote this book to help you desensitize yourself from being a walking red flag. A walking red flag is a person who is always sniffing red flag. They're looking. That's a person who is a walking red flag, right? They're doing that because their discernment radars are very, very dull, right? So they think they're going to use pragmatic measures to catch a caller, right? And what might end up happening is that they end up becoming a Clara who has no idea how they ended up in that situation. All they can see is that 5 years ago, this man was all in love with me. The moment he moved in, he became my enemy. That's all they can see. These stories can show up in so many forms, right? And these same stories can be told in so many forms. How many forms? Multiply the number of people that will retell these stories by at least 10. That's how many forms you can tell these stories in, right? So strengthen your inner boundaries. Okay, this is a time to focus on what you're willing to accept in relationships moving forward. If you are the type of person, you have a type of personality that try to see the best in people, but you do it to a fault, right? Then you have to be careful here. You naturally do that. So if something doesn't feel right, get a clue. Okay, success and failure leaves a clue. Get a clue, stop everything, seek wise counsel. And you can do that as many times as you need in a marriage. You have my permission. Yes, even if they accuse you that you think everything is about counseling. Yes. Because if you felt right, you wouldn't be asking for help in the first place, right? So it's important to understand, to draw the line between compromise and losing oneself. A lot of people out here in this internet street, they're very quick to preach compromise, right? And compromise is a beautiful thing. But compromise is something you do from a place of you're giving value. You're giving from a place of free will. It's not something you do to punish yourself. Even if you're sacrificing, compromising, potato, right? Even if you're doing that, right? You're connected to the end reward of you doing that. If you're doing it with a complete disconnect from what is the end goal of this, then basically that's not compromise. That's not compromise. Right? That's a very loose boundary. You need to be able to say, hey, I know I'm supposed to compromise, but I don't feel right. I need to understand what we're doing here first before I move any forward. Okay? So strengthening your inner boundary is a function of your self-development, endeavors, self-improvement, and things of that nature. All right, let me see what else do we have here. Let's see what else do we have here. I have a third tip that I want to share with you. Before we get into that, let me see. Marriott said MOP this. Okay, yeah, we covered that already. Yes, the stories aren't rare on the internet. Of course, on the internet, they're not rare. Of course, I'm covering them right now too as well, right? So the more secure a woman is, the less likely she will fall for an Olori Buruku. You know the funny thing, Toby? I have to agree with that 100%. It's very difficult for many people to believe that. I believe that wholeheartedly. Yeah, I believe that wholeheartedly. You know, people don't come into your life and manufacture low self-esteem from scratch. That's not how it works. There's some kind of vulnerability that's not healthy that they were able to tap into. Okay. There was some type of vulnerability that they were able to tap into. It was pre-existing before them. You know, so that's a very difficult one because again, it spells accountability. So I know that can be difficult for some people to get, but it's very key. It's very key. Let's see. This is another good point. Mario said everyone is secure until they become vulnerable. But we can't. Here's the thing with this statement, Marriott. I agree with you, but there's not much we can do with it. It keeps us in a place of victimhood. It keeps us in a place where we're just looking over our shoulder every time. In a romantic relationship, is it helpful? Can you point out to me how it's helpful? Because you're right, but I'm trying to see maybe if there's a way that's how this can help, because I want to highlight how this can help. You know, Mario says you don't get scammed because you're smart. You just weren't vulnerable and or greedy at that moment. We're saying the same thing in a funny way. In a funny way, you know. Now keep in mind, we're talking about in an emotional realm, right? We're talking about something transpired over a period of time. You were engaging this person. They were talking, they were telling you about their life. Even when we talk here sometimes, when people have holes in their story, you can pick them. You're not trying to sleep with them, but when they have holes in the story, you can pick them. How much more you are dating them in a romantic way, potentially for a lifetime partnership, right? There's just some things you'll pick up. You can't identify it, but you know that you can move forward. Not to the point that you necessarily break up with them, but you're able to say, I have an idea. I think we should seek coaching so that other people can help you. This is how I feel. I'm feeling this type of way. There's this other aspect of his life that I don't know. Maybe he walks on the waters. Maybe he's a Navy guy who walks on waters and stuff like that, right? He walks on the waters and he's always disconnected, so you don't get to talk to him for 1 month. And even that person, right? So he's never picking up the phone, and you're suspecting that this guy is cheating, but then he wants to jump out at the same time. But there's just all this, and then there's some things you'll pick up, So everyone is secure until they become vulnerable. No, some people actually carry insecurity around them already, and I want to focus more on those people. Let's see. I am not disagreeing with both of you. I'm just saying we need to understand how they happen. I'm with you. I know you're not disagreeing. I just want to make sure that, again, we're covering all those, because these are the blind spots right here, right? That's why I ask questions. These are the blind spots. Okay, so here's the blind spot that I want to highlight in all of this. Even as we're reading text, you see how I'm asking, I'm making sure, right? When you speak to someone on the phone, you're engaged with them. There's some things that your spirit will pick up. You as an individual, you're not smart. That's why I said I was agreeing with you in a funny way. There's some things that you will never be smart enough to pick up, but your spirit will pick it up. You can't identify it, but you know something is not right. It's okay to stop everything, because if you don't feel right, that's going to produce bad fruit. Okay, if you don't feel right, it's going to produce bad fruit. It might look like insecure or controlling, something that Uncle Kola is also accusing Clara of. You see? So thank you, Toby and Tribe and Marriott. Let me see, what is the next one here? Okay, speaking of, tip number 3, observe the energy exchanges. Now, this is almost contradicting itself, because you say spirit, but you're saying observe. You're saying don't walk on eggshell, but you say, if you try to do this without working on yourself, that's one thing I want to. If you try to do this without working on yourself, you'll become a walking red flag. Okay, you just be a red flag police. And that doesn't feel right in a romantic relationship. It won't feel right to the other person. The other person will be the one saying, something is not quite right. I don't know why. You become that person that go on Pop the Balloon and say, I don't want an Olosho. What do you want in a wife? I don't want a promiscuity type of woman. Right? You're walking red flag. There's nothing wrong with what you said. But most people will like, this, I don't know what's wrong, but something is off, right? That's what I'm talking about here, right? So though I'm saying observe the energy, but the energy is the key word here. The energy is not something you can contain quite all right, but it's something that you feel it. There's a certain energy you feel around people. And if you feel funny, take a step back. Take a step back. That's what I've been saying here. It doesn't matter if it's new dating, or you're being in the marriage for 5 years, or you've been in the marriage for 39 years. Take a step back and observe. Pay attention. If the energy is off, you don't have to say they're the devil, but it's time to learn something new. Okay? All right? It's time to learn. There's some questions you should ask yourself. Did you have moments that thing fell off that you ignored? Now we're talking about red flag. Did you have red flag that you've ignored? Reflect on how things has been up to this point in time. Did you have, like, as opposed to, one day they just flipped? Take a little bit longer time and reflect on everything that's happened, right? Has there been some other things that maybe you haven't paid attention to? It's very difficult to do this if you're self-medicating, of course. But with the help of a support system, your pastor, a wise counsel, a friend who you think is very wise if you're that broke, right? With the help, they might help you see some things, because all of us have at least half of the blind spot behind us, right? So there's only so much you can see, and sometimes when you share, other people can help you see things that you're not able to see. Today, forget about 5 years ago. Today, in this moment, when this guy has left the house right now, is another opportunity for you to do it right. The panic, have that under control. Try to slow down the anxiety, okay? But these are the questions you need to ask yourself, right? These are the questions that if you ask yourself, when you were in love 5 years ago, you probably couldn't really comprehend it. But now you're in a better place to actually comprehend and say, okay, he ran away from the house. He ran away from his problems. Well, what else has been happening in our dynamics, in our energy exchange, right? Reflect on how you've engaged with that person to better understand your own triggers and needs. See, you always think it's about exonerating the other person. No, all of this is for you as an individual, first and foremost. All right? Because if you don't get that right, you're not going to get the relationship right. Okay? If you don't get that right, you're not going to get the relationship right. Let's see. Me, I'm weary of charmers, and I tell them to their face that they are giving me scammer energy. You know the funny thing about that, Mario, that could be a seductive thing you're doing right there. Right? Let's see how far it goes with pursuing you when you say that. Right? Now, if he engages Shalaye, that could be a turn off for you. Right? But if he engages you in a way that's even more charming, you might just fall by mistakenly, even on the bola, even better, deeper. Right? You see? But you being weary of charmers, the only thing it can do is still subconscious in nature at the end of the day. Right? So I'll just pay attention to that. It's not exactly a bad thing that you're wary of charmers, you know. You might also be operating from a place of certain experiences or experiences of friends and things like that, right? It could also be your personality. You naturally you don't want somebody to be love bombing or doing something or doing too extra or doing too much, right? All of that could be, right? But it could be, you know, it could be a good thing, you know. Don't overthink it. Okay. If it comes off as a charmer and you say it out loud and say, hey, you're giving me funny vibes. Me, I would argue that I think you're falling for that person. That's why you're saying that. They entertain me. I like watching how scammers get people. So you know they are scammer or you're suspecting they are scammer. Which one? Do you know they are scammers or you're suspecting they are scammers? It can only be one of two of them. Okay. Number 4, the fourth tip of 5 that I want to share with you right now is enhance your listening skills. Are we beating this one over the head too much? Is this too much? Are we talking about active listening skills way too much? All right, should we keep talking about it? I think is the one skill set that most people, especially I'm a communicator, don't have. Okay, I think it's terrible for a lot of people. I think I was terrible at active listening. I could listen, I could be patient, but then I can actually lose my attention very quickly too. Yeah, so see, another angle, right? So it's something that we have to keep paying attention to. Very, very important. Sometimes the truth is spoken, but we're not always listening close enough. Sometimes that person had been telling you from day one, but you're not listening. No, you're listening, you can hear, but it doesn't mean you're listening. All right? So we can start now. Again, it's never too late. Once there's life, there's hope. Right? So instead of assuming that you have all the communication skills there is, become a student of active listening. Work on truly hearing people, and not just hearing what they say, but hearing beyond their words. Are you asking us to read mind? I don't know if that's what that means to you, but you need to hear other things beyond their words. Okay? You need to hear beyond their words. Okay? This is how you sharpen your discernment spirit. This is how you discern intentions early on before it gets too late. What is early on? Now. I'm not talking about 5 years ago. Right now, this opportunity you have right now, even though, yes, I know it's tough. You walked out of the house, you feel like your life is shattered and all that. I'm talking about now. Okay? You need to learn how to discern people's intentions beyond what they say. You can't keep waiting for what they say now. Yes, of course, people can have ulterior motives and intentions, of course. Yeah. It's always interesting when people think they're telling me that for the first time. Human beings are here to survive. I've been telling you that forever. They're here to survive, and they will do all type of wrong things if it feels right. Feeling right can come from a place of they're just trying to survive. What's the ultimate survivor here? Japa is not your mate. It's about survivor. Right? So, but the key thing here is here, how can we pick this up before it gets too late? Because the reality is that some of you, your husband is in the village in Africa somewhere. That's the reality. Okay. So just saying I don't want anybody from village is not enough. If you think that's a strategy, you will still catch a Mongo Park you'll catch a Mongo Park in South Carolina regardless. Because you're not acquiring the right skills. They're everywhere. Okay. So whether their intention align with yours or not, you're able to unveil their intentions when you remain a student of active listening. Pick up books. I will find some books and recommend them around active listening. It's basically something that you will have to continue to become better, because the person you are actively listening to also tend to also become better at deceiving you. If they're truly deceiving you, they become even better at deceiving you, especially if you're stagnant and you're not growing and you just expect human beings to come and do good for you because you're a good person. Wala.
He shot you.
Oh Lord. I have some new sound effects here. I'm going to test them out later on.
God have mercy upon us.
Hold on. What's our number 5 here? We got a number 5 here. Marriott says it's a hobby.
God have mercy upon us.
Hold on. I need to stop that. Let's see here. It's a hobby and also a smart part of my job to understand scams. Oh, I see. Let's see here. Number 5, focus on emotional balance. Okay, so right now, if you've gone through this kind of thing that this young lady Clara has gone through, your emotions are probably raging. If you guys saw the session I did in the morning, the emergency session, I talked about hurt, anger, but also relief, right? When this kind of things happen, we can't pretend that we're surprised. Your subconscious mind will make you pretend for a little while until Allah calls you. Stop pretending. You knew this was coming. Stop acting like this person just flipped overnight and they just wanted to victimize just you. It could be that, but that's not the focus of your empowerment. Your focus of your empowerment right now is, how did you get so lost emotionally in this situation that you couldn't pick it up from the beginning? That's the focus. That's the focus. All right. So when emotions are running high, decisions are often driven by those heightened states. This is a time that you're going to make some decisions and they're just going to outrightly be the wrong decision. Why? Because emotions are running high. So calm down. It's time to learn some new things. It's easier said than done. It's very difficult. So you need support systems around this. Okay. You need support system, trusted friends, mentors. Okay. Can be highly helpful in this kind of situation. But a man who will literally walk out of the house because you confronted him about something that makes you feel unsafe, that's not a man. Okay. No, he's a man biologically, but he's not in this. He's definitely lost himself too, whatever that means. Maybe he lost himself because he's looking for the pali. Maybe he's found his pali, right? But then that means he lost himself into your household in the first place. Isn't that sad? Either way, right? That's not necessarily what you want. Okay, even if they come back, remember, like I said in the morning, they have to earn you back. You can't just be readily available to take them back. Okay, come back, prodigal son. You can't do that, because then you haven't learned anything. Okay. You at least have to, like I said, back off of that situation temporarily. Take a step back. Take a step back. How did you end up here? We need to at least extract the lessons. Okay. We need to at least extract the lesson. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Did you cover some bases today? Shout out to everybody that was here today. Let's do a quick recap of what we covered. Tip number 1. We're not too far back. I forgot to favorite them, so let's just count it down. Tip number 5, focus on emotional balance. All right. Tip number 4, enhance your listening skills. Not hearing skills. There's nothing wrong with your ears. Listening, active listening. Okay. Number 3, observe the energy exchanges. Right. Just be a little bit more aware of the kind of energy that you exchange with people, but reflect back, because that person is with this story now. That person is about to reflect back. What kind of energy were exchanged before? Is this like really just surprise? Or if it's really just surprise, then you should run as far away as possible from that person. Okay, that is not a good person. But if it wasn't a surprise, then there's more lessons for you to learn beyond just that they are an evil person. There's more to it. So number 2, strengthen your inner boundaries, sharpen your discernment capabilities. Number 1, reclaim your narrative. I don't know how you want to tell this. Your story is your story, but your story the same story can be told in an empowering or in an endangering way. The same exact story can be told in an empowering or an endangering way. Make sure you're not endangering yourself and the people around you with the stories you've been telling yourself. All right. All right. So that's all I have for you on this episode today. Tomorrow we have a session. Let me see. Let's do a quick teaser. Tomorrow we're going to be, I don't know what the story is, but it's a story nonetheless. We're going to be talking about another young lady that you're looking at, represented by the person on the screen. All right. So we'll come back and talk about that one tomorrow. Do me a favor. If you're getting a lot of value, we're rebuilding again. We're rebuilding the platform again because we want the right audience here. People that actually want to learn. It's what we want to be here so that the algorithms can bring more of them. All right. So do me a favor, hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications so you're notified whenever we go live. Hopefully you've been enlightened and educated. I will see you guys on the next one. Take care. Peace.
Hey Prestige fam, show some love to the video. Hit like, subscribe, and share. Are you in Europe, America, and struggling in your relationship? From argument to abuse and trust issues, we're here to help.
Lola and I founded Prestige Marriage Academy to transform your story. With 20 years of friendship, 17 years of marriage, experience with navigating the ups and downs of marriage, and personalized coaching, includes 24/7 support. Ignorance is expensive. WhatsApp us at +1 732 305 8577 to book a free discovery session today and take charge now.
Don't wing it.
Join us in creating the love life you deserve.